So what I did here is, like I said, we're building a blob. And my primary intent for this is to show how to use the lofted surface and the boundary surface, and why you want to maybe use one over the other. But in order to do that, you really need to have them being built off of primary surfaces. So I'm not going to necessarily walk through everything I did. So, but basically modeled this in half, just so you know, in case you're seeing something missing. But here's my top surface. Just did a front surface. Now this is just a singular curve that's extruded, so there's no curvature in both directions. Where this one, you can see there's curvature in both directions. I then used a lofted surface for the side. You can kind of see, and this is so that I could, kind of show the different ones that I want to do. If I want to change the back, I can. If I want to change the front, I can. Again, I can only adjust the taper inwards. I can't adjust the top and bottom. So you can see here the sketch one, I could adjust that curve. I can adjust the front curve, so how it starts and how it ends. But I can only adjust it in one direction. I can't adjust the top and bottom. And these are things that you want to decide as you go to determine, hey, do I want to ever make this change later? I'll be honest with you, if it's going to be a complex model that I'm going to be sculpting and shaping, a lot of times, even with my lofted surfaces, I'll use 4 curves. Even though it may be a step more, it will give me more change as I look at it. If I say, well, I really would just like that top surface to be just curved in a little bit more. That's just a personal approach. If I'm going as fast as I can because I just need to get something done and cranked for evaluation, and I'm not doing a high level refinement, then yeah, not doing one extra sketch saves time. So now, again, we kind of showed this method before. You can see that I'm overbuilding all my surfaces. I then did a bottom surface. And for here, you can see just a very simple sketch profile, concave, one arc. I didn't really do any rhyme or reason. I'm just making a shape as I go. So the next thing was trim. So I got it all trimmed. I'm not too worried about the back. Now, here's something else. I use a lot of split lines, so that at this point, I want to build off of the surface edges. Because when you build off of a surface edge, so let me just kind of show something here. So if I do a split edge here, if I draw a curve, and I sweep that curve along this surface edge, that actually is going to have more control than if I was to sweep it along another curve, because it understands what the relationship for this surface is. If I'm trying to get it to go curvature continuous or tangent, it's just, there's more mathematical data for the computer to recognize when you have it off of a surface versus another curve. So all I'm doing is right now is I'm going to trim all my surfaces back so I can start doing my blends. Rarely on a, even if it's a very basic geometric shape, rarely do I ever use the radius tool to do anything other than to put it in, delete the face, and then sweep my own radiuses around it. So you can see I'm getting the top part. You can see here's where I'm planning on putting a radius from here to here. Keep going with a few more split lines because I'm going to have a radius that goes from this surface down to this surface. Delete all my faces. So now you can kind of start seeing, just by deleting the faces, you can almost see where the surfaces are going to go. Obviously, I've got a 90-degree corner here, so I can't do anything with that. But what I'm going to do is create a split line on there. So for this, what I did is I know where I want this radius to start, because we talked about that once before. Your blends or your rounds should try to start at the same spot so that you don't get this funny look of, you know, on the bottom it starts here, but on the top it starts here. So it's got that weird shape. You know, if I'm doing this and it's wrapping around the corner, that it's not starting like that and like that, because I want it to start here on alignment and alignment there. So if I come in, and what I'm doing basically is I drew a line that is constrained to that corner and that corner, and I tossed in some guidelines so that I knew where I could put my spline in. Now, for doing the spline, I now have an ability, so it knows where to stop. You can see that I can pick this side of the edge or this side of the edge. So what I can do is I can draw my spline here, draw my spline here, and this is actually really key because I want to make it so that it's tangent to this edge and tangent to this edge, or curvature, whatever. If I come in and I just eyeball it, and let's say that's it. If I come in and I zoom in, you can see how it doesn't quite go around the edge. So if I zoom in even closer, there's going to be an angle there. So this is where you need to be very careful and put in your constraints. And you can even see here, I'm off. But I can't eyeball it. That's going to be too hard. So click on that edge. I want it to be tangent to this edge here. So we'll click on there. And you know what? Let's just do curvature. And then we want to do the same thing here. You can already see that it's off. And what this helps me to do is when I sweep this surface later, I want to make sure that all these edges, all these corners line up. If they don't, you will not be able to stitch it. Or what you'll have to do is go back and find all these little holes. And this is where it gets dangerous. I've seen designers do this. They use the fill tool and fill up all the little holes. After doing that too many times, your model is going to be pretty much useless to do anything with other than maybe a rendering. If you ever have to change your model, you won't be able to. So we'll go in, we'll delete that face. And now what I've done is I've created the situation where I can have the surface come around here, surface here, wrap it around and get that. So now I created a plane. Oops. My plane didn't like it because I actually deleted the point. So let's just put the point back in. What? Are you going to get mad at me for that? Seriously? Okay, hold on. Let's see if this will blow anything up. I'm not sure if that's going to destroy anything. Yeah, it destroyed absolutely everything. Oh, no, it didn't. Hold on. Bear with me here. Something's happening. Okay. I'm just going to go back here to before I made that sketch modification. Okay, we're just going to reopen this up here. For the sake of this, I can't be bothered trying to figure out what I did wrong. So, okay, back to this. We've got the surfaces created. Now I'm going to toss in another split line here. Oh, wait, hold on. Bear with me, everyone. Okay, so I lost some information. That's fine. That's fine. We'll just do this quickly then. So, I have a couple different options here now to create these surfaces. I can, and I'll do them differently for each. So what I can do on this surface is we can do the lofted surface. And what we're going to do is go from this profile here down, down to this profile here. And again, we've seen this before, so we can do a straight edge. But what we've seen before is we can do curvature to face. So you can see that we've automatically created curvature to face. And then on the bottom one, we can do curvature to face. Now, I'm never necessarily too big of a fan of this because I find it somewhat cumbersome to control. Although it does make it easier to control in the real world. But now here's part of the problem that I find doing this method. You can see here, it doesn't have any information to go off of at the back because I didn't put a line there. All it knows about is from here to here. So in order to do that, I would have to add some guide curves. So let's just toss that in quickly here. And again, I can simply go and draw a sketch on that face. Let's just add some curvature. So something's not quite right there. Now, I don't have a plane here, so I want to connect one. So we'll just insert a plane for there. And the reason I want to do this is because right now, kind of like we showed you, I can do a loft. And I can loft from here to here. I can make it so that there are constraints, tangent to face, tangent to face. And what I can do now is I can control the back end. So if we go to a side view, you can see that I now don't have it overhanging. And if I want to adjust this, I can easily adjust it within the sketch and tweak and modify. Let's just knit it to make sure we're getting everything here. So you can see that I'm getting my tangency with my dotted lines. But like I say, again, the problem is I only have whatever it wants to be down here, so I can't adjust and control that. Now, part of the reason why I may want to control that now is because I know for a fact that my next surface is going to be built here, but this edge and this edge is going to control what I do with my blended radius around here. And corners can be extremely important. That's where a lot of people will spend a lot of time tweaking and adjusting to get that highlight correct, because it is so important as it wraps around that corner. But if I have to adjust this edge all the way back here, I'm still just getting whatever I hope it is. So this is where a desire to have more control in your life is good. So we can come back in. We will delete that knit surface. Let's delete that loft. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and put a sketch in. And you saw how I made sure that that sketch plane was snapped here. That's another advantage of doing the split lines, because I know that the split line here and here match up perfectly. So we'll come in. And the nice thing that I like about this is, since I know all my points are on the right plane, I don't necessarily have to go to a 2D view in order to get it to do what I want. I can draw in 3D. Oh. Okay, so now I have more control over that. And for now, I'm still just going to use the loft tool. And the reason I'm going to use the loft tool is, again, as we talked about, with the loft tool, with the loft tool, it only allows me to constrain the surfaces along two edges. Well, I'm only attaching to two surfaces, top and bottom. So I don't really need to worry about having any more control back here or back here, because the surface itself is going to go from here to here. Now, what I need to do is, if I come and go from here to here, and then I go with my guide curves and use that edge and that edge, I get my surface. But the problem is, I'm not able to control if it's tangent or curvature, because I want to use this as my profile. So basically, your profile ones should be your surface edges, so that from here to here. Does that make sense? So if I go from this profile, I can automatically say, hey, the start constraint, I want it to be curvature. I'm then going to go to this profile, and I can come in and say, okay, I want curvature. I want curvature. But now that's giving me the curvature off of the surface. I want to control it a little bit more, so I'm going to say use that and that. Now I'm not necessarily relying on the tool and just these arrows to drag it to give me my weights. I can adjust the curves. So now we come back and we've got that. And let's just toss the curves in here quickly for this. I don't know why it's doing that for me, but and you can see it can kind of get a little confusing with all the planes. You eventually get to see through them. Okay, so for this one, let's exit out of here. Let's just use a boundary. So we're going to go from direction here to direction here, and then we're going to go from a direction here to a direction here. So basically what you're telling it is to go from here to here and then go from here to here. So it's not guide profiles, it's telling it actually what way to go. Now, you can kind of see here where I now have 4 commands, so I can control all 4 edges. Well, up at the top, I want curvature. Down at the bottom, I want curvature. Now the thing is, there's not really much I can do on the edges from a curvature or tangency standpoint because it's not butting up another surface. So you can only get tangent to a face and tangent and curvature to a face if it's meshing with another face. So let's just click that. So this is something else I like to do. I just want to make sure everything is going in nice straight lines, that things are looking the way they should. I've got things going. I can see that this feels like it's a smooth curve going from transition to transition. This feels nice and smooth. So it's kind of just me working out the guidelines. Let us just again make sure that we can knit stuff. Go in and check. Looks like we are tangent in all the areas. Now, I don't necessarily like just to assume. So we'll go into our surface tools, evaluate tools. And I'm just going to grab a couple of the edges. So I have a little bit of a deviation there, but it's not enough that I'm going to be worried about it. So I'm going to call that good. This one may be different. Oh, so the one that I thought would be different is actually perfect. Now, if I want to, and this is kind of like, you know, I think it was Bryce or Connor or whoever was saying, you know, how much do I need to go in there and fix it? You know, if I look at zebra stripes, oops, let's turn that up. You can see it's nice and smooth. It's got a good, clean, rounded edge. And I'm not seeing anywhere along there where it's not. So for this model, I would be like, ah, that's good enough. I'm not going to spend too much time. If I do want to tweak it, it may be that right off the bat, the first thing I would always go to look at is my curves and to see, do I have that right or wrong? You know, sometimes if you pull it up too close, it can't achieve curvature, so you got to pull it out a little bit more. You can kind of see here, I definitely don't want to have it wobble out like that because I want to have it inboard, but that's where you can kind of tweak your curves and see if that's what's causing the problem. So let us undelete the surfaces or the surface knit. Now, here, let me just see something here. Interesting. All the stuff that I thought got deleted is there. So here is when I would recommend at this point for you to use a 3D spline. And I'll show you why. Part of it is because you have enough information right now between this surface and this surface, more specifically this edge and this edge, to help the 3D spline go where it wants to. So what I'm going to do is go 3D sketch, and I'm going to click it to this edge here. I don't want to click it down here, right to that edge there, and then I'm going to click it to this edge. Now, if I go to a top view, you can see it's a nice straight line. If I go to the side view or front view, again, nice straight line. So we kind of talked about that once before, where a lot of times the 3D curves get really wacky and that shows up in your surfacing. And part of that was because you didn't have enough reference geometry to build it, or there wasn't enough time spent to tweaking it. But this is a perfect opportunity for us to use it, because it would be somewhat of a pain to build a surf or to build a plane from here to here and get that all laid out. But what I'm going to do now is I want it to match the curvature of this edge here and the curvature of this edge here. So what that means is that by taking this spline, it's going to come out a certain bit of way here, but then it's going to transition upwards to this edge. So if I come in now and I take this and nope, let me. We'll toss on curvature. Now it's way out there, so I'm not too worried about that, because I'll just pull it back a little bit. But you can see I can't move it in and out. There is at no point where I can adjust that and it's not going to follow that surface. You can see that the angle is locked. All I can do is drag out the length of the curvature for that. Now over here you can see there's a problem because it's not constrained. So if I go to the front view, you can see here that I can do this, and now all of a sudden it's starting to get out of whack. But if I come back, and you can see from here, you can now see that where before we had it going in a straight line, it's kind of getting goofy. And again, I don't want to try to figure out how to do it, so I want to use my constraints. Now, now you can see I'm getting what I want. I'm getting a nice smooth transition. It kind of matches up here. I feel like that's going to be nice and clean. I might not necessarily like how short this ground is, but that's just me looking at how this is a nicer, bigger radius here, and that kind of feels a little wonky. But if I go to a top view, you can see it's not doing exactly what I want. But if I go to a side view, perfect line. So this is where now I've got enough information. Now I can come in and adjust it to get it to do what I want. Now you can see I can still go beyond, but it's always going to remain curvature continuous there. So I can come in and adjust this. And my goal is to have this kind of go from thin to thick, which is probably part of the reason why I'm not too happy with this. But then again, I just slapped this surface together for this class because I would want to change a whole lot of form development. But anyways, so let's say, what just happened there? Oh, whoops. For some reason, it pulled out too much. Okay, there. So now I can build my transition from here to here. So again, I can now control multiple edges. But because this is a hard corner and I'm not going to put a radius on there, do I really need to use a boundary surface that's going to allow me to achieve curvature on all four sides? No, I don't think so, and I'm never going to adjust that. So for this, my logic is I really just need to make sure that this edge is curvature, this edge is curvature. So let's use a surface tool that is a little more simplistic, and it's not going to make my model as math heavy. So you hear me talk about math heavy. When you're done with your surface model and you see that it's 100 megs, if you modify your surfaces and depending on how you're doing it, you can sometimes get that down way lower. So a whole bunch of things apply to that. We won't worry about that right now. So, but because I don't have all four sides in this one, I'm going to use the loft. Now, I could build this one with the loft, but I'm not going to worry about that right now because I want this to be my last surface, because this, so this this curve here, and this curve here are all going to control that corner. So let's go in, we'll do a lofted surface. We're going to go from there to there. And again, oops. Again, I want to pick the profile edges on my surfaces that I want to apply the constraints to. So right off the bat, and it doesn't matter, you could add the constraints now, you could add it after you attach everything. But let's just take a look at something here. So let's do the guide curves here, and we'll do the guide curve down here. Keeping in mind, guide curve, it's a sketch or it's an edge. So there we've got the surface in. Let's just do a quick little look at this. We'll stitch it to here and to here. So looks good. I got my tangency there. Let's take a look at our deviation analysis. We got a few little issues here. Still less than a degree, less than half a degree. But for me, I don't necessarily like that because I feel that that will show up in my highlights. Let's just check this side. So there we're getting a little bit 0.2 in that. Again, let's look at the zebra stripes. We'll make sure that's cranked up. We'll go horizontal. So in the zebra stripes, it doesn't look that bad. I feel like I can see a little something here. You can kind of, it's slight, but you can kind of see how it's not as perfectly smooth, you know, as up here. So there's a little bit of a wobble there. Well, let's go back. We'll edit this because we actually didn't apply our constraints. So this can help override things. We're going to make sure, and we're going to force it basically. And we're going to say we want curvature to that face. And then we want curvature to the other constraint. Oh, it failed. Okay, hold on. Let's go back. We'll delete that face. Let's do the loft again. We'll go from here to here. Guide curve, guide edge. I've done something wrong. Interesting. It would give me tangency, but it would not give me curvature. So let's see. We'll turn this off. Let's see if we improved it at all. Let us stitch. I don't know if anybody remembers what we had before, but I think that's better. Let's take a look at this one. I know for a fact this one had a 0.02 or 0.2. So yeah, everything's dropped down. So where we had a 0.2 before, everything's dropped down to less than 0.04 degrees. So I'm going to say for now, that's going to be good enough. I don't think we would ever see that in a tooling. And it's one of those things, again, how much time do you want to spend on it? Now, if I did want to spend time, it's always about the curves. So it could be that this curve is wrong, or it could be that this curve doesn't match up perfectly. So that's what you want to always do, is you want to always try to chase back to the curves. Because we talked about that once before. Everything, any mistake gets compounded as it goes. Okay, so now let's do the boundary surface. So here I want to make sure that I have a smooth transition from here to here and from here to here. So this is where the big difference between lofted surface and boundary surfaces come in. If I use a lofted surface, I have a choice. I can go here to here and then use these as my guide curves. Now, I always like to take the approach that I'm going to sweep the surface. If I'm going to loft it, I want to loft it, or I want to go in the direction that the surfaces want to go in the highlights. So for me, it makes more sense that you would wrap this surface around this corner versus going this way. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to go from there to there. So that's going to be my directions. Let's get that to the right area. We'll toss in our guide curve up there. And we'll toss in our guide curve down here. And you can see that, again, I don't have the ability to adjust these edges to be curvature or tangency to these surfaces. So let's just come in and do that for the faces. And it's not even going to let me do that. So let's try go tangency. So it let me do that, but let's just go back here for a second. You can see, come on, hold on. Meh. See how these isoparms are kind of going in a weird way? They're also rotating up. That's going to, right off the bat, when I see that, it's going to tell me that it's not doing what I want and there's something wonky. Because again, I want, when I can get them, I want clean surfaces. So if I come down here and say, okay, well, let's take a look at curvature combs. Whoa. So you can see here, let me just, what directions do I want? You can see along here, it's a smooth transition in this direction. But if I turn that off and I go to direction 2, you can see, well, one, the isoparm rotates, but we knew that. But you can see up here, the surface actually drops down. So right off the bat, by seeing those isoparms and doing that, even without doing the curvature combs, I know that there's going to be an issue. So right now, I could say, well, hey, this surface isn't going to cut it because I don't have enough information to tell it what to do up here. It's just doing whatever it thinks it can. So let's just do this anyways, because I just want to quickly show you. So you can kind of see my highlight is doing what I want. Here, let's turn off our planes again. Planes. My highlight is kind of doing what I want somewhat. You know, I'm getting that wave that comes up, it drops down, and it wraps around. But now the problem is, when I come up into here, I don't really see anything. But if we stitch it, now we got a whole bunch more sides to stitch. It looks like we've got tangency up there. But let's see, and do curvature analysis. So it's not quite very good. Max is 0.3. So again, anything under 0.0 is not bad. Anything above 0.09, I would start getting concerned about. Even though it shows it's tangent, it's still not perfect. If we do zebra stripes, let us, I always forget to adjust that. You can really see that there's some wonkiness going on. So here you can see how it wraps up and around that surface and there's a nice clean edge. Well, here you can obviously see something weird going on. Down here, even more so. I'm not even sure if we achieved tangency down there. No. So now we've got 1 degree. And again, I would recommend 3D printing some stuff wherein you're not going to get the same tolerances as you would for manufacturing, but just so that you can see, hey, do I feel something here? Is there something? If you have access to a programmable CNC machine, you might want to do that. If I get time, maybe I'll run some stuff on my CNC machine and give you guys something for school. But anyways, I digress. So let's go back. Basically what we've learned is there's not enough information. We can control it here and control it here, but we're not getting the control that we want up there. So let's delete that. We'll come in, we'll do our boundary. So we're going to go from edge to edge. Now you can kind of see, okay, we're getting the nice curvature that we expect from here and here, and it's following all the way through. Let's go from this direction. I don't know why, but the selection tool has become so sensitive. Now you can kind of see right off the bat that we're getting what we want here. So it's doing a nice job. There's no dips or anything like that. And we haven't even really applied our curvature yet. So what we're seeing here is, if you look, this surface has already got curvature between here and here. That's why this is coming down so nicely. Well, here, basically the surface is wrapping around, and at this point it's not quite sure what to do. So I don't know if you guys can see it, but you're not getting that full curvature there. So let's just leave it with absolutely no constraints. We'll hit accept. Let's knit it, stitch it, whatever you want to call it. Now, you can see that we actually didn't achieve tangency on anything. And that's because we basically told the software, hey, you don't need to do anything, just dump it in. And you can you can really see how bad things are on all the different areas. Now, if we come in, and we can now say, hey, we want this tangent to face or we want it curvature to face. So let's go with curvature to face there. You can see that the curves are getting a little bit better. Curvature to face there. Oops, it never works well doing that. Let's just exit out. You can see now that we've got tangency and curvature here and here. Check our edges. Oh, and you can do more than one edge for curvature deviation. We got something down there, but 0.02 over there, so we're happy with that. Something ugly down there, but that may be because we only told it what to do along here and here. So let's come back. We'll exit out of that. Now we're basically going to give it full control. We're not going to let the computer decide anything. We're going to say we want this to have curvature. Oh, something weird going on there. Something really weird. Okay, let's go to tangency. Huh. Bear with me. So I've got a real lump. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a bit of a lump there. So if I come in, let's just do deviation analysis. So it's telling me that there's an error over here and there's something going on over there. So it may be that my 3D spline didn't do what I wanted to do and wasn't nice enough. Or there's something going on here that I don't like. It may be a variety of things because it seems to be happy here, but then when it gets to this corner, you can see that it doesn't know what to do and it starts to wobble right in there. So what we can do is come back and say, okay, what more control can we give it? So let's just delete that out. And what we're going to do is go to a top view. And we're going to say we want some control in this area here. So let's just do, we're going to create a plane. And we're going to go right off the center. And what this is going to do is I'm going to add one more curve to get it to give more information so it knows what to do. So we'll use that. We'll create a sketch. Oh, whoops. Hold on one second. I forgot one thing. What I want to do is I want to create a curve on each surface, or a split line. We're going to do an intersection onto there and to there. What? Okay, give me a second here. We're going to cheat. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll do a sketch on here. We're going to grab it from there. Let's just hide that surface. And we'll come in. So what we're doing now is we're just, same as a loft, we're just going to give it a little bit more control over what we want to do, because that'll allow us to tweak and fix it. Part of this may be that I'm just not doing very nice form as well. So let's just check and make sure. So we'll come back, we'll do the boundary again. And we'll go from there. So you can see here, because I split it, I've got multiple edges. So I want to now use the selection manager. And I want to select this and this to make it one. We'll go here again, we'll go selection manager, because I want these two separate sections to be one, here to here. We'll go with that. I don't know if this is what's getting me what I want. We'll go tangency there. Oh no! So here, we don't need to put anything in there. Let's hit accept. It looks better. I'm not getting as wonky here anymore. Let's see what happens. So it looks like I've got tangency and everything. Oops, I forgot to stitch that top surface. So let's see, we'll do our deviation analysis. Oh, I guess I can't do that many. So we've still got a glitch down here. I'm going to assume that that's coming off of this surface. But for the sake of this model, I think that kind of shows you the value of doing the different things. We would still need to continue to tweak it. Now, what time we got here? 7:15. Let me just show you one more thing here as we go. When doing things such as you want to build something else onto it, we can come down. Whoops. Where's that surface coming from? So what I did is I'm going to put in an additional detail. Let me just see if I can get to there. So what I want to do is I want to put an additional detail in off of this surface that allows it to kind of do a vent or whatever. So what I'm going to do is, if we roll back here, I'm going to take this and I'm actually going to draw two sketches, and I'm just going to do a loft. And because I already split this body, I'm going to have a loft that starts here, and I want it to curve down and follow a path here. So once I've created that bottom surface and I've made sure that that loft is tangent to that top edge, curvature to face, so it'll be nice, smooth, and seamless. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to come down and I want to delete this face. So now you can kind of see that I've got my gap here. Well, that's not necessarily what I want, so I'm going to trim it back a little bit further. I'll create a split line. And what I did for that is I just kind of made it flare out a little bit. We'll delete that face. So now I'm removing edges, surfaces. So this is kind of like known as patch modeling. So I'm removing stuff and then I'm patching it back up. So if I come down, I can then come in and say, okay, this is the profile I want. So I want it to have a curve. I want it to look like this. And I could do anything in here. It could be a straight edge. It could be anything. Knowing that, I want it to transition out to a perfectly smooth edge here. So for this again, let me just go back. I don't need to worry about control back here, but I want to make sure I have control here, here, and here. So really, what that's going to need to be then, it's more control than just two edges. I want control on three sides. So anytime you need control more than two edges, it's going to be the boundary surface. Now you can notice here where I'm going to then come in and do my boundary surface. And I'm going to say I want to go from here down to this edge here. Well, you can see that it goes across the full edge. And the reason for that is this surface is not attached to this. So that is one edge going up to there. In order to get it so that it's just that little piece, I have to make sure that I stitch things properly. So we'll stitch this onto here. Now what I can do is I can go in. I'm going to say go from here down to here. Ignore this because we know that it's going to have an inflection, because that's the way our curve is designed to go. So let's just turn that off. Let's turn off zebra stripes. Now what I want to do, I want to have that edge there, that edge there. I want to come back. I want to say I want this to be curvature. I want this to be curvature. Quit yelling at me. I want that to be curvature. Now you can see that I've got my transition and my detail in there. So it lumps up here. So there's something it doesn't like. Because if you look at, yeah. Oh no, it's doing what I want. So you can kind of see that I'm getting that shadow line. Now it's not arcing necessarily the exact way that I would want it. I kind of had the vision that it would curve more like this. So that just means that in order to get that, I would need to curve this one as well. So, but there, that's how you start getting those details in. I could make this highlight a little bit fatter. Soften everything out a little bit. And start playing with it like that. What we can then do is come back and stitch everything together. And now you've started getting that form and shape. So that's what I wanted to show you for this. We're at 7:20, so I want to make sure we take a 10-minute break here. And I'll send both these models out for you guys to play with. Ignore my errors because I actually overrode some of the stuff I was doing. So before we take a quick break, questions?
Once the break is done, can we hop out into a breakout room? This is Emma.
Yeah. So my question is, so yes, when we come back from breakout, do you guys want to just spend the time working on your models and getting support from Evelina and I, or do you want me to walk through one of the other models, knowing that we can always walk through those other models anytime? I'll let you guys kind of vote in.
Hey, Chavez, were you gonna mirror this?
Oh, I can. So I could come in and just, let me make sure I've got. So I could come in, just take this. Where's my tools? Come on, stop. You want to see if it's actually symmetrical on the side? I do too. Why does it want to let me select it? Come on. So you can see I've got a problem in there, but I think that's actually, yeah, that's a separate surface. So you can see though, now that I mirror it, there's a problem with this surface here. But what I can always do is if I don't want to have to spend time going back and figuring it out, I'm gonna cheat. Actually, this is a good time. So let's take a look at something here. I'm gonna delete this face. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to use my patch boundary. So, because I've got more than 4 edges, even though I could make this one edge. So let's see how this goes. We're going to go with that edge, that edge, that edge, that edge, that edge, and there. And basically what it does is, for all intents and purposes, I think I mentioned this before, it kind of lays a cloth over it and then fills that in. So if we come back and we say we don't want contact, we want curvature, let's see if it gives it to us. So it still gave us a weird thing in the center, so it's not wanting to get that. So I have an error somewhere, probably down in this face or something, that we'd want to go back and fix. So I probably should have mirrored it prior to this, but you can see there's a lot of things that are not necessarily nice about this model. This is a little bulbous. It doesn't have a natural form. Oops. If I go to the top part, there's a lack of curvature here, which is not very nice, and you can see how everything doesn't quite match up. So this wasn't about form development, but surface. Other questions? Okay, so let's take a break. And then, I'm sorry, when we come back, do you want to just work on your models? We can all jump into different breakout rooms.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, excellent. I'll stop the recording and then we'll take a 10-minute break, so 7:35, okay?